The last thing I saw before Earth disappeared was a pair of hands wrapped around it. Not human hands. These were enormous, larger than oceans, larger than continents, larger than the entire planet. Their fingers curved around the Earth as if it were nothing more than a glass ball someone had picked up from a shelf. Then a voice thundered across the emptiness of space. Fushigi! The hands began to move. But I should probably start with the moon shoes, because none of this would have happened if I had just watched Johnny test. The box arrived on a Saturday morning. It was huge, bright, and covered in pictures of kids leaping through the air with enormous smiles on their faces. Across the front, written in letters that looked as if they were exploding out of the cardboard, were the words, "Moon Shoes." Underneath that, in much smaller letters, it said, "Anti-gravity devices for your feet." I didn't care about the small letters. I didn't care about the instruction manual taped beneath the lid. I didn't even care that the box showed every kid wearing a helmet and knee pads. All I cared about was the promise made by the commercial. Jump higher than ever before. By noon, every kid in the neighborhood had gathered in my front yard. They stood around me in a circle as I strapped the moon shoes over my sneakers. The shoes looked less like shoes and more like miniature trampolines. Thick rubber bands stretched around plastic platforms beneath my feet. I stood up. Immediately, my ankles bent in two different directions. Everyone laughed. "Shut up," I said, waving my arms as I tried to balance. "I'm figuring it out." I took one step. The rubber bands compressed beneath me. Then they launched me forward. I bounced through the grass, stumbled into the side of our mailbox, and barely caught myself before falling into the street. For half a second, nobody said anything. Then everybody started cheering. That was all it took. Within minutes, the moon shoes were the most important object in the neighborhood. We took turns jumping across the lawn. We bounced over cracks in the sidewalk. We tried them on grass, pavement, gravel, and dirt. Every time someone landed without breaking an ankle, the next person had to attempt something even harder. First, we jumped off a small rock. Then we found a bigger rock. Then someone pointed toward the steps leading up to my porch. "Do it from the top." "That's 5 steps," I said. So? So I could die? "You're not gonna die." Nobody ever said that because they knew it was true. They said it because they wanted to see what would happen. I climbed to the top of the steps. The moon shoes wobbled beneath me. My friends gathered at the bottom, staring up with the kind of excitement people normally reserve for car crashes and fireworks. I jumped. For one beautiful second, I was flying. Then I landed sideways, rolled across the lawn, and came to a stop beside the garden hose. Everybody exploded into cheers. I sat up, dizzy but alive. That should have been enough. It wasn't. We spent the afternoon searching for new ways to use the shoes. Every successful jump made us feel braver. Every bad landing became a joke. The danger didn't seem real because nothing truly terrible had happened yet. Then one of my friends looked into my backyard. He saw the trampoline, and he had an idea. "No," I said immediately. He hadn't even finished explaining it. "Come on," he said. "Think about how high you'd go." I am thinking about it. That's why I said no. The trampoline sat behind us in the middle of the yard, its black surface glowing beneath the afternoon sun. The moon shoes were already designed to make someone bounce higher. The trampoline was also designed to make someone bounce higher. Combining them seemed less like an experiment and more like a mistake the universe was waiting for somebody stupid enough to make. Naturally, everyone loved the idea. "You have to do it," one friend said. "Why do I have to do it?" "They're your moon shoes." "That doesn't mean anything. It means you go first." I looked back toward the house. I think iCarly is coming on. Nobody moved. Or maybe Johnny Test, I added. I'm pretty sure there's a new episode. You've already seen all of them. That is completely irrelevant. They started daring me. At first, I laughed. Then they started chanting. I tried to explain that the idea was dangerous. I suggested we test the shoes more carefully. I suggested we use a smaller trampoline, even though none of us owned one. I suggested we wait until tomorrow. Finally, I remembered the instruction manual. We should read the warnings, I said. There might be something in there about trampolines. That silenced them for approximately 1 second. Then somebody called me scared. Someone else said I wouldn't do it. The chanting began again. I wish I could say I stood my ground. I wish I could say I walked inside, took off the moon shoes, and spent the rest of the afternoon watching Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. Instead, I looked at the trampoline, then at my friends, then back at the trampoline. Fine, I said. I climbed onto the metal frame and stepped carefully onto the black surface. The trampoline dipped beneath the weight of the moon shoes. Every part of my body told me to climb back down. Behind me, my friends shouted encouragement or threats. At that point, they pretty much sounded the same. I moved toward the center. 1 bounce, I said. That's it. Nobody answered. I bent my knees. The trampoline sank. The rubber bands and the moon shoes stretched. For 1 silent moment, both devices seemed to be holding their breath. Then they released me. The trampoline launched the moon shoes. The moon shoes launched me. The backyard vanished beneath my feet. I shot above the roof of my house, above the trees, above the entire neighborhood. I heard my friends screaming, but their voices disappeared almost instantly. Houses became squares. Rows became thin gray lines. The town shrank beneath me until it looked like part of a model. I kept rising. At first, I thought I would come back down. Then the clouds rushed past. The air grew colder. My stomach seemed to remain somewhere far below me. I tried to scream, but the wind tore the sound from my mouth. It roared in my ears and pressed against my body so violently that I couldn't move. The sky darkened from blue to purple, then from purple to black. I saw the curve of the earth. That was when I knew I was not coming back down. Something snapped open beneath my feet. Panels unfolded from the moon shoes and raced up my legs. Metal and fabric wrapped around my body, locking into place over my chest and arms. A helmet closed around my head with a sharp hiss. It happened so quickly that I barely understood what I was seeing. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the world was gray. Dust lifted around me in slow, glittering clouds. Jagged rocks stretched toward the horizon beneath a sky so black it seemed solid. Above that horizon hung Earth. Blue, white, impossible. I stared at it for a long time, then I looked down at myself. I was wearing a spacesuit. It was huge and white, with thick gloves, heavy boots, and a rounded helmet like the ones worn by astronauts in the old photographs. Tubes and metal plates ran down the sides. Parts of the moon shoes were still visible beneath the boots. A quiet mechanical hum surrounded me. I knew this was a bad idea, I whispered. I pushed myself upright. The movement sent me further than I expected, and I drifted awkwardly before falling back onto the lunar surface. Did I just jump all the way to the moon? Earth offered no answer. This is impossible. Then I remembered the manual. Right before I had stepped onto the trampoline, I had suggested reading it. I had even taken it outside. And because I hadn't wanted one of my friends to lose it, I had shoved it into my pocket. I reached for my pants and struck the outside of the spacesuit. For one horrifying moment, I thought the manual was trapped beneath the layers I couldn't open. Then I noticed how much empty room there was inside the spacesuit. I pulled one arm backward through the sleeve, the way I sometimes pulled my hands inside a long sleeve shirt. My arm slid into the body of the suit. I reached down, my fingers found my pocket, and then the manual. Getting it in front of my face was even harder. I dragged it upward inside the suit, pressed it against the glass of my helmet, and opened it beneath my chin. The print was tiny. I flipped through the pages: assembly instructions, weight limits, approved terrain, warranty information. Then I found the warnings. Near the bottom of the page was a picture of a trampoline inside of a red triangle. My stomach dropped. I read the words beneath it. Warning: excessive jumping while wearing moon shoes may result in extreme altitude. I turned the page. When combined with a trampoline, users may be transported to the moon. I stared at the sentence. That would have been useful on the front of the box. Beneath the warning was another section. In the event of a lunar landing, if the moon shoes detect that the user has reached the lunar surface, a temporary emergency spacesuit will automatically deploy. I looked down at the suit surrounding me. Temporary? The mechanical hum suddenly seemed much louder. I searched the next page for instructions explaining how to return home. There were diagrams of the suit, warnings about sharp rocks, a reminder not to remove the helmet, but nothing that clearly told me how to get back. I flipped through the manual faster. There had to be another section. A return mode, an emergency bounce, anything. Before I could find it, a shadow moved across the lunar ground. I stopped. The shadow stretched over the rocks and swallowed the dust around me. Slowly, I looked up. Earth still hung above the horizon, but something was moving behind it. At first, I thought it was a cloud, then 5 enormous shapes appeared from the darkness. Fingers. A colossal hand emerged from one side of the planet. A second hand appeared from the other. They were larger than Earth itself. I couldn't breathe. The hands closed around the planet, their fingers curving over oceans and continents without touching them. For a moment, everything became perfectly still. Then a voice boomed through the vacuum of space. It did not come through my helmet. It came from everywhere. Fushigi! The hands began passing Earth between them. The planet rolled across their fingers like a crystal ball. Blue oceans flashed beneath enormous palms. Continents spun past as the hands moved faster and faster, performing impossible tricks with the entire world. I watched my home tumble through the darkness. Then the hands stopped. Earth rested between them for one final second, and then vanished. The hands disappeared with it. The light reflecting across the moon dimmed. There was no planet above the horizon anymore. No blue oceans. No white clouds. No neighborhood. No trampoline. No friends waiting for me to fall back out of the sky. There was only darkness. I stood alone on the moon with the instruction manual pressed beneath my helmet and the faint hum of a temporary spacesuit surrounding me. Far below my feet, something clicked inside the moon shoes. Once, then again. I looked down. A small red light had appeared near my ankle. It began to blink. And from somewhere inside the shoes, a mechanical voice whispered, "Earth not found." Did you guys ever have moon shoes or a Fushigi ball growing up? Let me know in the comments down below if you have any funny stories associated with them. Yeah, so I had moon shoes growing up, but I never had the Fushigi ball. Man, I remember seeing those commercials for the Fushigi ball. I thought that was like the darkest form of magic one could possess, and I really wanted that thing. Unfortunately, that wasn't one of the cheap rip-off items that I got when I was a kid. But I did have the moon shoes. I remember bouncing around on them for approximately 10 minutes until the fucking straps broke on them. Thank you so much for listening to this ridiculous made up story. And if you like it, let me know in the comments.